Hi, everyone. This is a really quick overview of the project we're going to be working on for the last 2 weeks of class. It is called Your Personal Thesis, and it's based on the thesis statement you wrote for Purple Hibiscus. However, this time, instead of talking about how a character in Purple Hibiscus has changed, you're going to talk about how you have changed. So, what we're going to do is I want everyone to think about some changes you've made during this time of quarantine and distance learning. They can be positive or negative. They can be big, they can be small. But, what kind of changes have you undergone? And what have you learned, maybe about yourself, about the world, about school, about anything? Like, what have you learned through this experience? So, a couple of guidelines. No, this is not another essay unless you want to turn this into an essay. But it's not an essay, it's a creative project. I'm going to give you some examples in a minute. You are writing one sentence, a thesis statement. Now, can you write more than one? Of course, but you are writing a thesis statement, okay? So it's like your main point boiled down into one sentence, answering the question, which is, how have you changed and what have you learned? So you're writing one sentence with two parts. How has this experience changed you and what have you learned from it? I've come up with like 35 different ways that you can express yourself and support your thesis. You can bend any of them. Like if you see one, you're like, oh, this is kind of cool, but what if I did this? Then yeah, you can do that. You can suggest something else. I tried to come up with lots of different ideas, but I know there are many more. I had more. I was just like, this is getting to the point where it's too many ideas. You can pretty much do anything reasonable to present and share your thesis. What does unreasonable mean? Well, it can't be something you wouldn't do at school, right? Like, yes, it's distance learning, but if it's something you couldn't do at school, and when I say couldn't do at school, let's rephrase that. Something you would get in trouble for at school, something that you would get disciplined for. Like, can you do a dance wearing your school appropriate pajamas? Sure, you wouldn't probably wear your pajamas at school, but as long as they're covering all the bits, you can do that. But you can't do something you wouldn't be able to do at school. Like you can't do a slam poem that is only curse words because this is still a class, even though it's from a distance. Okay, so here's the purpose. Here's why we're doing this. I want you to try to take this whole quarantine experience and make something meaningful out of it. I want you to really think about yourself. Okay, so putting this on you, how is this impacting you? The other cool, fun thing is that it's something steamy you could put on your portfolio, right? So whatever you do, the idea is you would put it on your portfolio. Now, if it ends up being like too personal, like you start really exploring a personal transformation that you've had and you don't want to share it with the world, we can chat. Um, the only rule is that you must write that thesis. So you have to write a sentence that answers this question. And then you have to put it on your portfolio. But I just said there are some reasons we can break that rule. So, this is not meant to be a time-consuming project. Like, for example, what I did in my examples is something I just did in my life. And I was like, oh, but this helps me answer this question. I'm not trying to like stress you out and make you do hours and hours of work. It might take you 15 minutes to write a thesis and kind of brainstorm about what you want to do, and then maybe 45 minutes to put it together. If you're like, oh, this is really fun, or like, oh, I've been meaning to work on this thing and it fits into this, then spend more time if you like it, right? If you're frustrated and stuck and you have no idea what to do, start asking yourself, why am I frustrated? Why am I stuck? Could this be a project? Like, do I have a am I just so unmotivated by, doing work through a computer? And then maybe you want to like do a little bit of research about why that is, and then that's your project. But essentially, our Zooms for the next 2 weeks will be kind of me brainstorming with you guys. So if you get stuck, I'd love to help you come up with something. All right, so here are all the 35 different ideas I came up with. I am not going to go over them because that would be a very long video, so you can look over them. But I do want to show you one of my examples. So I came up with 4 sample thesis statements, not going to read them all. And then let me just do the most basic one because I'll do the other one in a Zoom. Okay, so my third thesis said, While I've always claimed to love the natural world, I often take it for granted. This is the one thesis I did those two sentences. Of course, I'm using that as an example. However, during quarantine, I took daily walks photographing beautiful flowers to demonstrate that while it may feel like everything is falling apart, there is still beauty in the world. So that's my thesis. My change was that instead of just being like, yeah, I like nature, I actually started to spend more time in nature. And then I also had a mental change. So my lesson was a mental change that sometimes when you feel like everything around you is falling apart, maybe you're looking at the wrong stuff. Not everything is falling apart. And so my project that I did to demonstrate this thesis is a photo collage. So I took pictures that I had actually been taking on my walks. And I took pictures of flowers because that's something I've been taking really pretty pictures of flowers and sending them to my mom because I don't get to see her like I would like. And so it's just a nice way for us to stay in touch. And then I put my thesis on it. While it may feel like everything is falling apart, there is still beauty in the world. And there we go. And so what you would be turning into me is you're going to post your thesis, your personal thesis, probably somewhere where all your classmates can see it and comment on it like we did before for Purple Hibiscus. And then you're going to turn into me your project piece, okay? So does it have to be a photo collage? No. Another one that I did that's in here, I made a slideshow and I made a GIF. Other examples are videos. Like you could do a video diary. You could draw a picture. You could write something. You could create a song. You could do a dance. You could even have a Zoom with your friends. One of the options that I thought like might be kind of like fun would be if you got some friends together and did a Zoom and just like talked about how you felt about this whole quarantine experience. It doesn't have to be a Zoom, it could be any kind of like chat that you could record or whatever, but it might be fun for you to get a group of friends together and just kind of like talk about it and then share that out. So there are a bunch of different things. Another thing could be if there's a hobby that you've developed. So my other example was a hobby that I've been working on. I got really into hand lettering. I think some of you guys had noticed like previously I like to do some cool like handwriting type things, but I wasn't maybe as good at it as Riley. But I was like, well, now it's my time to get better at it than Riley. So I started learning about hand lettering, and that's what this is about. So that being said, this project is supposed to be fun, um, creative, let you explore. It's not supposed to be stressful. If you're like Ms. Klein, how can you say project and not stressful in the same sentence? I get it. So join me on my Zooms, and you can also schedule a time for a one-on-one Zoom, or like if a group of your friends are like, let's see if Ms. Klein will do a Zoom with us at this time. But pretty much like anything goes as long as you answer this question. Drum roll, drum roll, drum roll, drum roll. Has this quarantine distance learning COVID-19 experience changed me? And have I learned any lessons from this? One last thing before I stop this. It needs to be a sentence. Is no a sentence? Not really. No is only a sentence if it's a direction, like if you're telling someone no and it's an understood you. So yeah. If you're really like, I have not changed at all in any way, and I'm like going to put my foot down on this, then you need to explain why you haven't changed. Like, why has this had no impact on you? That would be your explanation. Cool, cool. I'm so excited. Looking forward to seeing you guys next week.